Well, hello. We are lighting the candle, a world that works. This is Bill Correll with my podcast bestie, Lisa Sheehan. And today we're going to have a remarkable opportunity to spend time one on one and really kind of get into some things that we haven't talked about a whole lot. And right before we started recording, we're having a conversation about the situation where people go through a lifetime, and some have been an athlete, or some have had the discipline of working their bodies and getting in touch with what it feels like, both to build muscle, have experiences what that sensation is, and then pain and just a different way of connecting with how their physical form is. And again, we're having these conversations. First of all, we're empowering each other, we're empowering ourselves, and our goal is to empower you. And if we're getting the first two done, we're pretty sure you guys are getting value out of this. So, with that said, Lisa, is that kind of a good framework here? Because we have several different ways that we can communicate with the universe. There's the spiritual aspect, there's the mental and thinking aspect, and then the third one is the physical aspect of not only our bodies from the skin out, but our bodies from the skin in.
Yes, I think it's a good point. We had discussed how, well, my learnings lately have been to realize that, this body that we are blessed to have been born into is, obviously it's the only one we have. And to treat it as like the housing of your spiritual life too, so that, you are brought here to make it the best experience that your human body can have, so that your spiritual being can have success and explore every aspect of this life. So treating your body as that kind of miraculous vehicle for letting your spirit soar is kind of, it kind of makes everything come into place so that you can treat both aspects of your life equally.
I like what you said. And I also wonder how many people actually consider that we were brought here so that our bodies could experience, the best of everything. And just by saying that one sentence, and I'm going to say it again because it was really impactful for me, it's almost antithetical to the Western culture, especially, the puritanical, your body is not your body, it belongs to God, and therefore, etc. And do not have impure thoughts and all that, whatever else, that leads you to. So in a moment, you know, you can say a sentence, and what if our goal in life is to experience the maximum that this body can experience? Just what would that look like, and how would you progress along a continuum of experiencing new things? Now, I mean, we're good at growing our mind. We go through primary, secondary, college, all that experience of book learning, discussions, creating new wrinkles in our physical brain. However, um, I would say for most people, the spiritual journey is probably second to that, and then the physical journey for many is in third place. So I have to agree with you. How do you develop a relationship with your body that allows you to keep at the front of your mind, I'm here to live in this body and have this body go to bed tired every night?
Hmm. I think and then there's the struggle. So when, it doesn't matter when it happens in your life, but at the beginning you're all about the physical for a while. Some people consider, like, I think Wayne Dyer even talked about that young part of your life as the athlete.
Yeah.
So, and then you get to the point where maybe you turn to a spiritual path. But then I think sometimes there's a point where you kind of ignore your human side. And I think what I'm learning now is that they're both so equally important that you can't you can't side towards one over the other. You have to have equal importance in both. So, and that's where I'm at now. It's like the physical part. I want my physical body to, so they're not calling it lifespan anymore. They're calling it health span, because you want to live out healthy. You don't want to, live longer in pain or in disease. So to treat that body like that, so it can carry you, your spiritual you, into the best corners of the universe. That part that you want to discover and that can bring you joy and bring you happiness, and it's always there. So
It's an interesting kind of a concept, the whole idea of where are we on life's continuum? Because we live as if we have an end date that's way out there in the future. I mean, the truth is we have no idea when our end date is. However, because people's longevity is increasing year over year, I was reading an article this week. They were talking about it in 1900. The average lifespan for a man was somewhere around 45 years, and the average lifespan for a woman was somewhere around 50 to 52 years. So that's in 1900, with whatever level of medicine that they had, and nutrition, and all of that sort of thing. So as time goes on, we get into like 1950, and now men and women both are living beyond 55 or 60 years old. And then in the year 2000, holy mackerel, we're starting to get a lot of people that are in their 90s, and quite a significant number living into their hundreds. And so now they're saying that it's really likely that people will live to be 100 years old, rather than less likely, right?
right,
So the neat part of it is that shifts the timing for when people are young, and when they are mature, and when they're middle aged, and when they're and when they're elderly, right? So now middle age just went from whatever it used to be, probably from 50 to 70. It's now shifted to 60 years old is when you start being middle aged, and 85 years old is the upper limit of being middle aged, and then you're old on the other side of 85.
yay.
Yeah, so all of this gives you ample time to really give space and room in your thinking and your activities to concentrate on this relationship of knowing yourself and knowing your body. And the other neat thing about it is that we oftentimes consider ourselves as disintegrated units. Like, this is how I am at work. This is how I am with my family. This is how I am when I'm partying and having a good time and dancing, right? This is how I am. So there's all these things, like they're silos that don't report to each other. And the exact opposite is the truth. When we disintegrate our thinking that way and divide our attention, we leave a lot on the table, because there's a certain amount of capacity, and the character and what you bring to just being alive. When you start looking at integrating all of these things together, and you're just the same whole person, showing up wherever you go, and being competent, and being full of curiosity, and having a lot of questions about what happens today that's different than has ever happened before. When you start showing up as an integrated human, you bring your soul, you bring your thinking, and you bring your physical body with you. And now there's some responsibility that can go along with that, and also a lot of freedom. So when we were talking about being an athlete, the thing that happens with athletes is, over time, they build muscle by doing repetitive things that allow them to increase their capacity. First, it's getting a capability. Like, as you said, when we're small, the first thing we do is we learn how to crawl, right?
Right.
At some point, we master crawling around on the floor and being a rugrat, right? And then it's like the audacity. It's probably one of the last few times in your life when everybody is going to encourage you to do something that they know is really hard for you. Now stand up and balance. Now stand up and walk, right? Did anybody ever say, don't stand up and walk. It's too difficult for you. You will never, ever, recover from the falling down. I don't
And
remember.
nobody ever feels that lesson. It's like, if you think about it, it's one of the hardest things to accomplish, and everybody does it. But you're
Amen.
right. It's that encouragement. So it's like, if you can learn to walk, you can learn to do just anything.
100%. And if we were really for each other, we'd take that one little lesson. And whenever somebody says that, I'm standing in a doorway here now, and I have to walk through this doorway, and it is scaring the bejeebers out of me.
Yeah.
I don't know what's on the other side of this door. I don't know if I'm going to be any good at it. And if everyone that we talk to, instead of saying, "Yeah, no, I hear you. That's probably a dangerous thing for you to do," and I don't know, I tried it once or twice, and man, it was hard, and it was a waste of time. And so you get agreement. I think whatever you're putting out to people, they're going to agree with if you say, "Hey, I am doing this and I'm ready for the ride. Let's just strip down and jump in and go."
Right.
Imagine everyone in your life giving you that kind of heroic coaching and support and cheering.
Well, it's like the walking part too, because you fall down so many times, and people encourage. So it's going to that scary point, and people still then getting behind you and saying, "No, you should go for it. You
Yeah,
have to go for it." It's not when it's easy and you can't wait to do it. It's the other times that would be nice if people are around you, like you were learning to walk, and it's scary, and you might fall down, but you have to do it. You know,
yeah.
there's so many parts in life that I think we don't even push past that threshold that you were saying, that you're in that door, but you have to push past. And it would be nice to have a cheering squad all of life, to get you through it.
What a neat thing we could do for each other, right?
Right.
Be breakthrough buddies.
Right.
I don't know what you're trying to do, but man, you ought to just do it. If
Right.
something keeps coming up for you over and over and over again,
Right.
like the thing to decide, um, that's one of those things you want to put in your rearview mirror, and you want to have that experience and have that experience in the body, not mentally go, well, I could, and this is what it would be like. No, that's not it. It's like anybody that's ever jumped out of a perfectly good airplane um, cannot describe to another human being in a way that they could actually experience the jumping out of the airplane. I'm,
No.
I'm sorry. I mean, we can approximate that.
And you can't learn how to ride a bike by reading. That was one of the classic ones. I remember somebody in a teaching situation said, and that just made so much sense to me. Like, you could read all the books you want about riding a bike, but if you don't get on one, you're never going to learn how to ride a bike.
Yes. And the goal in all of these things is to increase the amount of time in between failures. And once you've gotten to the point where you're not failing anymore, now it's time to change the game and amp it up. The whole idea of growing like a weed when you're 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 12, 15 years old. Can you even imagine what this world looks like if our culture was all about getting people to experience the age that they are 100% completely?
That would be a weird picture. That's something weird to even imagine, because
Sure.
yeah, but it's a good thing to put out there. I mean, I think that's, and then with the age, like you said, increasing, so middle age is now forever kind of thing, which is kind of cool. Um,
Well, I mean, we go around at bars, you always hear that, 40 is the new 30 and
right.
60 is the new 50 or 40. So I think I think it's really something that's worth spending a few minutes and, you know, delving into a bucket list. Not a bucket list like your mom and dad's bucket list, or a bucket list like even your grandfather's bucket list, or not even your children's bucket list. How about your own bucket list with new, fresh, wide open thinking? If I could do anything in the world, what I'd most like to do is Fill in the blank.
And sometimes it changes like in an instant. I mean, I never thought I would take ukulele lessons. And that's what I'm doing right now, and all of a sudden that appeared on my bucket list, but it was an instant night kind of thing. It just, it grabbed me, and because it combined it with mindfulness, and I like mindfulness, so the two together was a strange combination, but it fit where I was right now. So your bucket list can change in a moment, and just to run with it.
So let's dive into that story just a little bit. Can you share with us how the inspiration for ukulele, came into your life? What caused that? Do you think?
Well, because it combined, like I said, it combined something that I'm actively involved in. So I was taking a mindfulness refresher course, and all of a sudden, this mindfulness ukulele approach came into my view on Facebook, I think it was, and I went, "Well, that's interesting." So, and he's a guy in California. He's a musician from way back. He's probably in his 40s, and he just combines mindfulness. So we meditate, we go into our bodies, we feel the soles of our feet, we do a whole meditation, we try to like be with the instrument, and he teaches very slow. So you start out with one finger, and then two fingers, and then three fingers, so it's interesting. And and because they use tablature instead of a notes on a scale, which is kind of a different way to play because there's only four strings. But so it's interesting, and it's like walking. So he's not letting anybody stop because they feel like they're failing. Like even holding an instrument is different when you haven't done it. When you have to fret and that kind of thing. So he eases you into it to the point where he knows that you're going to feel like you want to give up because you're not doing it right, or because you're not playing music right yet. But he kind of eases you into the fact that no, you have to get this strong first and then go to the next step, which is kind of like a analogy for life too. you know.
Yeah, if you're going to be a football player, you start with push-ups, jumping jacks, and squat thrusts.
Right.
And if you're going to be an instrument player, then there's fundamentals there too. You know,
Well,
I
that's how
really love what
like that, because that's how we started the conversation before we went on. That I growing up, sports were never really an offering for girls too much. So I didn't have that. I mean, I did take dance class and things like that, but the way Ken talks about knowing his body because of his athleticism was not my experience. So I was thinking, but now, so you can get it in so many different ways, by learning anything. So, and then your body, even playing the ukulele, I have to learn how to put my hand differently, and it's not used to it, and then we're talking about being middle aged, and just kind of like you ease yourself into being less active, being less agile, so you, instead of sitting lower on the ground, you just get chairs that are higher and higher, and then you wonder why you can't sit on the ground and get back up again because you stop doing it. So I've got a low stool that I keep in front of the TV once in a while, and I just practice getting up and down off of that because I don't want to be that person that can't get up. And I was that person not that long ago. So
same here. Same here. And over the last 2 years, I actually wanted to get to know my body a little bit differently than I had in the past.
right.
And I've gotten to a very sedentary place in my life, and a lot of muscular atrophy,
Hmm.
to the point where, because I'm a tall man, my knees bend usually about 4 or 5 inches higher than most of the seating at restaurants. So
Oh
if
yeah.
I sit into a booth, I have to deadlift myself, from the waist up,
Yeah.
to get up 4 or 5 inches. And when I was weighing 285 pounds, that was really a task, especially because my muscles were not, in
Right.
shape. So over the last year and a half, I've lost 35 pounds. and replaced quite a bit of it with muscle from doing working out, and also having a lot of walking and
Right.
changing my nutritional intake. So it was not a diet, because I was looking for a lifestyle change that I could replicate for the rest of my life.
Right.
And I've been close to 290 pounds, maybe twice or three times in my adult life. Uh, Back in the most of it was related to recovering from some sort of an operation or an injury or something of that nature.
Right.
Uh, so back to what we were talking about, all of those things that are different, like the sense of balance, that walking 5,000 to 8,000 steps a day, which is really not, you know, the industry norm for being in shape is 10,000 steps a day, which I think was about 3.5 miles.
Right.
And that gets old, because I mean, seriously, to do it all at one time, and have a 15 to an 18-minute mile, you're really talking about putting an hour, or more into the walking.
Definitely.
So then you were talking about the stool. Well, I've invented a bunch of little exercises that I can do.
Mhm.
When I go to the loo,
Yeah.
I will stand up from a seated position like a dozen times while I'm there. So that all takes place in less than 2 minutes.
Yep.
And it's kind of like a little bit of a celebration, bundling different things, activities that seem to go together. And I'll do the same thing if I go in the kitchen to unload the dishwasher. I will angularly press myself against one of the counters, like a 45-degree angle, and then I will do push-ups at that angle, maybe a dozen, 15 push-ups. So it's a bunch of little things like that. And
Right.
then the next thing you know, I'm out at the restaurant. I'm having no trouble getting out of a booth at all.
Exactly. And that's kind of fun to have those little accomplishments and you notice them.
Yeah,
I think we stopped doing that somewhere, I don't know, even pushing ourselves to do anything little different and being complacent in things. So doing those tiny little things and that show that you have proven results, I think is great for your spirit too, as well as your body.
absolutely. There's no better feeling in the world to just be able to get up like a youngster and at the age of 67, because who said you have to be out of shape and you have to weigh too much and all the rest of those things. Now the real key part of all of this is that I'm German heritage, and Germans are notorious drinkers. Everyone that I've ever known that was German, you know, especially once you hit the age of 55, there's a happy hour almost every single day. And we're gregarious people, and as a generality, and we're very on purpose people as well. And so the neat part of it is to have a life that will allow for not overeating and not over drinking.
Right.
However, balance, and we were talking before, the where you disassociate during a diet from so many things in your life that are the reason you're here.
Right.
Stuff tastes good. You ought to be able to eat it. The idea is don't eat it all the time, right?
And that's where, I mean, my current thing is, um, and it's, I did it myself and I've read books about it too, but I fast once a week, where there's no solid food and basically not much of anything else. But I mean, I literally tried on a pair of jeans that I wore last year and I can't even wear them
Yes.
because they would fall down. So, that kind of, so I know, I got that feeling just this morning. I said, now, it's working. There's the proven results kind of thing. And you get used to, because I fasted for 3 days on a detox program, where there was no solid food. And one of the side benefits, and I might have talked about this before, was I was watching TV and looking at the guide, and I'm going, why can't I see the guide? And something in my head said, take off your glasses. So I took off my glasses and I could read it. So
Wow.
my eyesight improved, and I don't know what to correlate it with, whether it was changing to mostly organics or cutting out all those things like dairy and sugar and um, anything, dairy, sugar, caffeine. I cut out at the time. There was all those things, but and it hasn't stayed that great. It hasn't stayed to that excellent state. But now I'm wearing glasses that I wore years ago. Like they're 3 prescriptions ago, and only when I'm driving, which is how I started. So just the little things like that show up to like like go, yay life, yay me.
Yeah. So, the whole way of living, again, coming back to our Western culture,
Mm-hmm.
is you got to have goals, right? If you don't have goals, then what are you doing with your life? So, what we do when we set a goal is we put blinders on, and the goal becomes the thing. And the actual process of achieving a goal, doing the things that cause you to fail over and over again, like the walking, like the rhythmic breathing and swimming, balance on a bicycle, the whole point of having a goal is for you to be able to expand your horizons to the right and to the left while you are doing the work. So the failure should be the piece of cheese. You did something, and this is what you got. Now, what can you learn from what you got? Bring your curiosity and crank that up to full volume from time to time so you can actually start focusing not on the goal, but on the outcomes. The wonderful thing about starting, at the beginning of COVID and saying, man, I've got this comorbidity. I'm at least 40 or 50 pounds, overweight. That being the case, I really need to do something about that. And the being able to get out of a booth is again, it's an unplanned result and an outcome, like you're describing, which most people would put that into the category. Mine's just a little thing, but yours being able to improve your vision as an outcome of doing this thing. Holy mackerel! Really?
I know, because I know, like, I think everybody gets to an age where they either are going towards cataracts or macular degeneration.
Yes.
And mine was the latter. So I was just thinking that my eyes were getting worse. So it was a happy surprise when I discovered they were getting better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you said, it's if you have something that you're attempting, you're trying, and then there's a side benefit to it. I mean, I think that happens all the time. Where like I said, that you have to act as if look at life as if everything's a miracle, or as if nothing is a miracle. So you have two choices, and I like to look at the
Yeah, our culture is really lean on miracles occurring. And people who declare miracles are usually one step away from having a net thrown over them.
well,
Until you get in the right circumstances, right?
they're there all the time. I mean, every
Yeah.
every day is a miracle when you think about it. I mean, I'm I'm doing this silly little thing where we were given 3 corn kernels to plant in our mindfulness class, and just to journal on and how they what you see kind of thing. And so all 3 came up, and I was thrilled that they came up. And I have a black thumb, not a green thumb. So, and I still have, I repotted them, and one is like going really strong. So I talk to him every morning, and I'm like, hey, Corny, how are you? And I don't know what he's going to do, because I don't know if you can grow a corn stalk in your house in the middle of winter, but I'm going to see how far he goes. But like, to me, that's a tiny little miracle every day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a remarkable thing to share. You and I have this opportunity to create.
Right.
And the whole idea of doing something that you couldn't do yesterday until you can do it today or tomorrow, that in and of itself is a life's lesson that's really worth paying attention to. And we were talking about Ken and Ken's uh, his discipline.
Hmm.
Um, I have you know a course that I do as a coach, and it's the segment is called the freedom of discipline.
Right.
And this is one of those things that being able to replicate anything 100% as it's being taught, and the rigor of being able to do that creates a whole new understanding. That's that whole thing. Tell me something, I hear you. Show me something, I see you. uh, Let me experience it, now I understand. you know it's in the understanding where you've actually lived the experience yourself. And when you are in a position to turn around and teach someone else that discipline, and then they can turn around and teach someone else, so that it's not, it can duplicate and it can replicate, with nothing missing and nothing added. Now you can share from that experience with people, and they'll make their decision as to whether or not they want to participate in that. However, most people want to cut to the chase, right?
Hmm.
How many people start reading a novel, whether it's a trashy novel or it's Exodus or, War and Peace? Um, how many people flip through, what happens to her? What's going on over here? How does this turn out?
Blasphemy. That's horrible. I can't stand.
People do it.
I know, but I can't. It's not
Yeah,
me.
no. So at one point, um, I recall somebody who was telling me that they were binge watching some show that had 15 seasons, right? I don't remember what it was, but I came away with the feeling of you're watching these, and you're watching. Each of these are like 45 minutes, right? And the answer I got was, yeah, but I don't watch all of it. I fast forward.
Oh,
You know, if I and this was someone from England, and they said, "Well, when I get to the spicy bits, I stop." You know, and
those Brits.
yeah, yeah. So, but I mean, I've never known anybody that did that before, and this is the miracle of having a Roku, where you have all of the seasons for a show that are there. But the point is that, until you can sing a song with all the words in it from start to finish, how can you sing another song that's based on that song? So change the word song to play the ukulele, go skydiving, take a cruise, stand on a glacier, you know, helicopter ride over an active volcano, you know, going to the Galapagos Islands and seeing all of those animals in their natural habitat. These are not things that somebody else can tell you about or show you, because the experience isn't like two times better or three times better. How about 1,000%? We took a cruise for our 20th wedding anniversary back in the 1990s, and we went to Alaska. And when Yes sings about mountains come out of the
Right.
sky, and they stand there, right? We had to look up because we're going from sea level to 7 to 10,000 feet, whatever those are, right? And holy mackerel, the Mendenhall Glacier at that time was a mile high.
Wow.
And so,
Wow.
so it's just one of those things, you walk around the cruise ship, and the first 2 or 3 days when we're sailing out there and going to misty fjords and the inside passage, and everybody's jaw was on the deck. It was like, holy mackerel. The first time we saw icebergs calving, from a glacier and hitting that water, and then
Yeah.
spout going 40, 50 feet in the air. No, I'm telling you about it. I'm giving myself goosebumps remembering it, but you may not be getting goosebumps. I'm going to guarantee you, had you seen the same thing, and you'd be filling in the blanks, and you'd say, and what about this, and what about that? Our experiences could then meld for a moment, and we'd be giving each other goosies.
Well, I think I mean, out of this conversation, I think you've described my life or my goals, which is to replicate as many things as I can.
Yeah.
I think I've done that since a childhood, and like you said, like learning something, it's not it's the experience of doing it. So you can't, like you said, you can't read it. I went to the Grand Canyon, and you cannot. I don't care if it's in the movies. I don't care if it's anywhere else. You cannot describe that enough to have that feeling of what it's like to see that in person. And I'm sure there's a bazillion places on the planet. I know there's a bazillion places on the planet that I would like to experience firsthand. And there's a lot of experiences I would like to experience firsthand. And that's the joy of life. And I think that's what people forget to do every day. You can do something like that. There's something out there. If it's playing the ukulele, if it's running down the street to try a new path, or anything. Take flying. My a gentleman I met with my father this morning. He's taking flying lessons. And he's in his 60s. He's starting something new. There's always something out there, and it doesn't have to be cost a lot of money either. It could be anything. You know,
You can grow 3 corn plants.
you can grow a corn plant.
How is that for a low cost investment?
It's so low cost
Where
and
did
as
you
much
get the seed?
joy.
Where did you get the seed?
On my mindfulness class, she gave all of us a little packet of 3 seeds,
Oh,
and
that's
part
fun.
of our it was part of our mindfulness practice was to watch it and journal on how it grew. And at first, I didn't think it was going to even happen, and then all of a sudden, 3 shoots are out there, and then and then tuliping out and making pretty little corn leaves.
That's amazing.
uh,
I have to see that, before this day is over. I have to see what those corn stalks look like.
well, there's only one that looks really good.
Well, don't tell the other two because they don't know that.
Oh, I should. They're right over there too.
That's crazy. That's also, the one of the things that I was doing on that cruise was participating in a course. It was a course that had to do with romance, but not romance like love and trashy novels and that sort of thing. It was using the word romance in place of fantasy.
Okay.
So there are the things that we wistfully think about during the course of the day, and we imagine how they would be if we were to experience them. Like, for instance, one of the things we all stood up on our first day, and I was a business owner at the time, and there was a man who brought his entire family on the cruise. There were like 8 or 9 of them, and all of them were in the same business. And so we declared what we were working on, during the course of the 5 days that the class went, an hour and a half a day. So he stood up and he said, "We are here to learn what it will take for us to go from $25,000 a month income to $50,000 a month income." And that was kind of intriguing to me. I never would have, prior to going on that cruise, you know, that wouldn't have occurred to me. Like, just keep working harder. And of course, we were at the point then where we were actually making some money in our business, and you know, it was kind of fun. But then this guy's going, how do I go from
Right,
so
double. Yeah.
yes. And so the expansive thinking on this was to examine during the course of the week every place where we would say, I can't, I will never, that's not possible, I wish I could. And journal about that and share with each other, when we got back together. And so the kind of the breakthrough moment was when each one of us discovered that those were the things that we've been saying for a long time.
Right.
And it's not the things that you don't know that hurt you. It's the things that that are not true.
Right.
So being able to, in a moment, hear a thought like that out of the 80,000 or so thoughts they tell us that we have on a daily basis,
Repetitive.
hear that thought and say, oh, wait a minute, lose 35, 40 pounds? I could. I could. Make $50,000 a month? I could, you know? So all of those things that were kind of grandiose also came back to looking at the different mountains. And our seminar leader said, see those glaciers? They have no idea that one is better than the other. They're happy little glaciers just sitting there doing their own thing. It takes you to evaluate and say that one is better than the other. And guess what? It's not true.
No.
It's about noticing. It's about having this childlike curiosity in an adult body with the full capacities of being an adult, and being able to, take your dreams and be very specific in terms of what you want, and in terms of programming, the law of attraction, utilizing the benefit that can bring to you in any moment. It's probably not going to give you $1 million in your bank account by tomorrow morning. I don't know anybody that actually happened for, although I do know somebody that got a check overnight for 40,000 the next day. Not
Nope.
too shabby.
Nope.
And I do know somebody that, by saying those types of affirmations, and those are replacing thought distortions. Those are the things that you tell yourself that are limiting beliefs that are usually invisible to you, right? And the more you listen to those things and the more you can dispense those and just let them float away, and I don't need that thought anymore, that thought is of no use to me, the more you get an opportunity to replace them with something that's very powerful, like, I'm going to grow some corn plants.
Well, they're like tiny little judgments, and I was
Yeah.
listening to a gentleman that teaches kind of spirituality and being in the presence kind of thing. And he was just like, so every time one of these things come up, you go, judging, change that thought, and change your thoughts is a constant teaching too. Change your thoughts, change your life.
Yes.
But little things like that you can push forward. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah. And here's really the fun part. There are people that have written whole books that the fundamental teaching is reframing, replace,
Right.
uh, allow that thought to disappear and bring in a new thought. And in a lot of instances, what you find is that there's a linear practice at the beginning, where the thought that you're having to replace the thought that you're letting go is in some way referential to that first thought. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So instead of having a thought like, my back hurts and I don't know if it's ever going to get better, to have the replacement thought be, I'm going to read a book.
Yep.
So it's got nothing to do with the complaint thought or the judgment thought or the thought that is the distortion of your opinion of yourself and your surroundings and society, right? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with it? What's wrong with them? The whole thing, right? So if you have a thought that you're producing an opening where the old thought used to reside, and it's of a certain space, it's kind of like making notes on a page that's got print on it already. And at some point that flips over and becomes a whole blank page.
It's the adult version of distraction.
Say some more. That's very cool.
Well, with children, if they're doing something that you don't like their behavior, one of the best ways to stop the behavior is to distract them into doing something else. So,
Right.
as an adult,
Here, play with this toy. Yeah.
yeah. So it's the adult. So if you're having a bad thought, you have to just create, like you said, not the bad back, but because I think people do that more often than they know, and to kind of acknowledge and celebrate the fact that they're doing it too, like, oh, look at, I just, I don't have a headache, let's do some, I have a headache, no, and then go, I'm going to make myself a cup of tea, and that kind of thing. And then before you know it, you go, oh, my headache's gone.
Yes. Yeah. There's, like I said, in the whole area of self-help, um, you can spend thousands of dollars getting different languaging for the same
Right,
practice.
right. Well, it's like
And the
we're
one
all
that works best for you is the one worth searching for.
yeah. If you
And
if you break down all religions, it all comes down to love. So
all you need is love.
that's right. So
Bum, ba, da,
nothing
da,
worth
da.
that song.
Well, see, the thing of it is that you and I need things to be juicy. And what happens is the juicy turns into the mundane sooner or later. And now what?
Hmm.
So that's where, that you need a phone a friend who can remind you to be curious. What am I missing? You know, what do you do when this happens?
Right.
Um, how long do you wait before you call somebody and say, I'm in a bad place, get me out of here?
Now,
And all they say is, get out of there.
do you find people? I know, like the classic, like, how do I stop doing this? I remember listening to Neil Donald Walsh, and it's like, I want to stop doing this. So what do I do? You go, stop, stop doing it.
Yes.
How blatantly simple is that? But
And most people don't think of it.
no, but I don't know if people have these conversations. I don't, I have a pretty good, decent sized group of friends, and I tend to be the one that initiates the deeper conversations. So, and I'm curious as to what people do when they're not around me. Are they just going along life, without any curiosity, just going through the motions every day?
Yes. Well, one of the one of the courses that I took, the definition was a friend is anyone who shares the same complaint as you. That typically you will be friends with people until it finally dawns on you that this complaint is creating nothing. And as a
Boring
matter of fact, that's the value of having that friend.
in a weird way. Yeah.
Yeah, to hold the mirror up and basically say, you're getting nothing out of this, and this is 10 minutes of your life you'll never get back. You know, get busy, get out there and live. You know, get out there and feel your body.
Yeah. I mean, I do obviously. So, people, and I'm sure you're the same. My friends are very active. So, I don't have to worry about that aspect of it.
Sure.
And I think, it's, it's fun to be the one that brings different conversations into the circles, that kind of thing. And I look forward to that. And that's why I also like to study with other people that I don't know, or join all these classes, or and meet new people. So, and I know that's fearful for some people, but I think even attending a class by yourself, because you're certainly not going to be the only one that's there doing it yourself. So take that dive, learn something anywhere. With Zoom things now, it's so easy. Or just watch a YouTube video and learn something.
Or listen to our podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Or make a podcast.
I know, self-promotion. I should be.
Hey, but somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah, might as well be us.
Yeah, exactly. I think the main thing is and I'm glad you languaged that way, because we have a view of ourself which is very small and underdeveloped in most cases. The the muscle of building a self that's worth its weight in gold, that has value, that has intrinsic value, not just explicit value. the kind of value that brings leverage to your life and allows you to have relationships with people that um, are unimaginable, you know, that gives you the keys to the kingdom in terms of as you are developing yourself from a small s, like what the dictionary says self is,
Mm-hmm.
into a self that you are ongoingly building, uh, developing, creating muscle, creating experience, like this whole body of wealth in terms of experience. When you are at that point of having examined and looked at your life and looked at yourself and made changes and upgraded and 2.0, and we're putting an addition on myself today that we're going to have a whole west wing, and we'll be like Snoopy's doghouse where the whole army platoon comes out marching one after the other, or there's an indoor swimming pool in Snoopy's doghouse. When you are creating a capital S self, it's a work of art. This eh, being engaged in the question of why am I here
Mm-hmm.
and what is my life for? Remember when we were kids, people would go on a trip after they got out of high school to find themselves.
Right.
Where are you going? "Oh, I'm going to go find myself." Well, good luck with that. Let me know how that goes, okay? Um, the funny part of that is that almost nobody that I know found themselves. They found some people that they liked, and they started acting like those people that they found. And then later on in their life, when those people were no longer around anymore, they had no self to rely on. So I think, your whole kickoff for this conversation this morning was just so spot on. It's like, how do we hear something that somebody else is expressing? Like Ken, when he's talking about the rigors and the discipline of being an athlete, there are things that you can and can't do. Now, you can be somebody who really takes this to extremes, and then at the end of your life, they're going to call you the greatest of all time. You're going to be known far and wide, Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I think you can count on one hand the number of alcoholic beverages he's had in his lifetime. He just doesn't do it. His goal was to maintain his physical prowess until he was 50 years old. He likely could play the game of football
Right.
into his 50s. And that's because he had a discipline every single day that gave him a freedom to create with this magnificent thing called his body.
Yeah. Optimal. Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are. The question for you, our listeners, is where in your life would you like some of that?
What are you going to
Like,
do today?
yeah. As Will Smith says in Independence Days, got to get me one of these. The world is out there for you. The world is out there for you to stop window shopping and go in. Go in and get what you
Yeah.
want.
Especially without where we were born, we were so fortunate to
Yes.
be in this country and to have all these opportunities and like to be able to complain about the silliest things. We have that ability too, but to celebrate moments, to find the goodness in everything that you see, to be able to look at everybody and see their light, kind of thing, is what I'm leaning towards, and I'm leaning in very hard to try to do that, and find the blessed, wonderful bliss in every moment.
I think that is a remarkable thing to dedicate yourself to. You're with a capital S. That's that's not an accident. That's called stack up your outcomes. You know, play for a result. Play for a goal, but stack your outcomes up like cordwood. Bring
Right.
them along. Use each lesson to your advantage, and have the cookies, buy the shoes, take the trip.
There's a reason there's all different color crayons, you know. Fill up your crayon box with every color.
100%. And use every last one of them down to a nub.
That's right. And even broken crayons work. So,
They work just as well as the whole ones, right?
that's right. That's right.
So I guess we're getting close to the end of our hour, and this is remarkable spending time with you, Lisa. I just want
Well,
to
that went by really fast.
I want you to know that I appreciate you, and I just want to recognize the bright spirit that you are, and just how fortunate I feel being your friend.
Well, I, it's like how the universe does these things and brings people together. I'm always fascinated by it, and you know, should never be surprised because it always has something in store for you. So, you know, the chances of us meeting was, you know, insane, and that then it turned out to be this way. I couldn't be happier than to have met you as if it was random.
You and I know better.
Exactly.
There, you have to answer the phone, but the calls keep coming until you do. And
Right.
when you meet the right people and you stick together, it's kind of the same thing with Vanessa and Shelley and Ken. We all had individual, connections, and the philosophy of increasing the relatedness, and and
Right.
I love the description, and I can't tell you who said this, but that life is a series of events that create relationship, and each one of those events and experiences is like adding one more thread of connectedness and relatedness, and that after time, that becomes so strong of a bond that you couldn't break it, with any type of mechanism. The only way to break it is if someone walks away, right? So the neat part of, and I really want to say that you are one of the treasures in my life, that I was listening well enough to hear in the first place, and we said the right words to each other to say,
Right.
this might be interesting. And now that's going on what, like 3-4 years ago,
Yeah. Yeah. I think
out at a network meeting, having a cocktail with a bunch of other, business owners and networkers, and just having the time of our life.
yes, I appreciate it all so much.
Yes, absolutely. Namaste.
Namaste.
So here's the final question to you. We never know where we're going to go in the conversation.
Right.
On a scale of 1 to 10, given the conversation that we had before we started recording, how would you rate this in terms of 1 being not at all what I was looking for, and 10 being exactly what I was looking for? And I feel like we created something here today.
Oh, definitely a 10. I mean, I think when there's a reason time flies, you know, there's when you're caught in the moment because you know it's authentic.
Yes.
It just breezes by, and I think, you know, the back and forth conversation between two people can either be short and stunted, or you know, it can be glorious. And I think if you just listen to each other and have a conversation and try to help each other in the meantime, in the whole concept, you know, in the whole time span too, then you fill it. It might be going fast, but you fill it with a lot of value.
Yes. Yeah. You want to know how fast your life can go? Fall in love with everything you do.
I know.
And get 150% enjoyment out of your curiosity.
That's the key.
Any last thoughts?
I think I'm complete, as they say.
Yes. And as we wrapped last week, we have two models that we can talk in terms of. They're both valid. Keep looking and you'll find it. But I like the one where if you build it, they will come. Life is about creating, and life is about failing at creating and continuing to create.
That's
Just
all.
creating. So, with that said, we are once again lighting the candle, and we have passed the flame to y'all today. And we're co-conspirators in a world that works. The world already does work. we are creating that world in every conversation. So thanks for dropping by. Lovely having you over, and we'll see you again in the next episode of Lighting the Candle, A World That Works.
Have a good week.
You've been listening to Lighting the Candle, A World That Works, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can hear us at exvadio.com/podcasts, Apple Podcasts app, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and wherever you find podcasts.